There's a reason you can't sit on the floor anymore. And it has nothing to do with flexibility. Watch a child, any child, anywhere in the world. They drop into a perfect squat without thinking. Hips open, spine straight, heels flat on the ground. They don't stretch first, don't warm up, don't check their form in a mirror, they just descend. Now watch an adult try the same thing. Knees collapse inward, heels lift off the ground, back rounds forward. And within seconds, they're reaching for something to hold on to. What happened? The common answer is, you got older, your body got stiff. That's just life. But here's what that answer doesn't explain. Why can a 70-year-old in Okinawa sit comfortably on the floor for hours? Why can a grandmother in rural India squat while cooking her entire life? Why do indigenous elders move with more fluidity than most 30-year-olds in New York City? It's not genetics, it's not luck, it's memory. And I'm not talking about the kind of memory stored in your brain. I'm talking about the memory written into your fascia, your joints, your bones. The memory of movement patterns that humans have performed for 200,000 years. Until we stopped. Not gradually. Suddenly. In 1846, the Kingdom of Prussia introduced something that would change human movement forever. Mandatory public schooling. And with it, mandatory chairs. Before that moment, most humans spent their days moving. Squatting to cook. Kneeling to work. Sitting cross-legged to eat. Lying on the ground to rest. The body touched the earth dozens of times every single day. But in 1846, we began training children to sit in chairs for 6 hours straight. And we told them this was progress. This was civilization. This was how educated people behaved. We didn't just change how they sat. We changed what their bodies remembered. Because here's what neuroscience has discovered in the last decade. Your body doesn't just execute movements, it records them. Every time you perform a movement pattern, you're strengthening neural pathways. Every time you avoid a movement pattern, those pathways weaken. It's called use it or lose it neurology. And over the last 180 years, we've been systematically losing something. Not muscle mass, not bone density, movement vocabulary. Think of it like this. You're born speaking a language with 10,000 words. But you grow up in a place where people only use 500 of those words. Eventually, you forget the other 9,500 even existed. Your body is doing the same thing. You were born with the ability to move in hundreds of ways, but modern life only requires about a dozen of them. Sit, stand, walk forward, reach overhead. That's it. The other movements? Forgotten, not gone. Forgotten. There's a difference. In the Hermetic tradition, there's a principle called correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. It means that what happens on one level of reality reflects what happens on another level. And here's where it gets interesting. When you lose movement patterns in your body, you don't just lose physical capability, you lose something deeper. Dr. Moshe Feldenkrais, who studied with Judo's founder and later became one of the most important movement scientists of the 20th century, discovered something remarkable. He found that people who recovered lost movement patterns didn't just become more physically capable. They became more emotionally flexible, more mentally creative, more spiritually open. It was as if the body and the psyche were speaking the same language. And when the body learned a new word, so did the mind. This isn't metaphor, it's measurable. Research from Columbia University showed that when people practice unfamiliar movement patterns, their brains create new neural connections, not just in motor cortex, but in areas responsible for problem-solving, emotional regulation, and sense of self. Your body isn't just a vehicle for your consciousness, it's a teacher. And right now it's trying to teach you something you've forgotten. But before I tell you what that is, you need to understand why this knowledge was hidden. In 1952, something unusual happened in American schools. Physical education curriculum was redesigned nationwide. Movements like squatting, crawling, hanging, and floor-sitting were removed. Replaced with what? Sports, games, competitive activities. On the surface, it made sense. Keep kids active, teach teamwork. But there was another reason. A reason that's never discussed. A body that can move freely in all directions is a body that's harder to control. I know how that sounds. Like conspiracy thinking. But consider this. In every traditional culture on Earth, The ability to sit on the ground was considered basic human function. Not a skill, not an achievement. Just normal. But in industrialized nations, we redesigned the entire physical environment to eliminate the need for it. Chairs in schools, chairs in offices, chairs in restaurants, toilets instead of squat toilets, beds raised off the ground. We built a world where touching the earth became unnecessary. And then we built an entire industry selling you products to fix the problems that world created. Ergonomic chairs for your back pain, orthotics for your flat feet, physical therapy for your tight hips, massage for your tense shoulders. The global pain management industry is worth $83 billion. The fitness industry, $96 billion. Both are built on solving problems that wouldn't exist if we simply moved the way humans moved for 200,000 years. That's not conspiracy. That's economics. A body that needs help is a body that generates profit. But here's what they didn't account for. The body keeps the memory. Even if you haven't squatted in 30 years, the pattern is still there. Dormant. Waiting. Like a language you spoke as a child, but haven't used since. The moment you hear it again, something inside you recognizes it. And recognition is the beginning of remembering. Let me tell you about Sarah. Tech worker, 34 years old, Portland, Oregon. For 2 years she woke up every night around 2:30 a.m. with pain shooting down her right leg. MRI, normal. X-rays, normal. Doctors, probably sciatica. Try these muscle relaxers. She tried everything. Acupuncture, chiropractic, dry needling. The pain would disappear for a few days, then return. One evening she was at a friend's house for dinner. Everyone was sitting on the floor around a low table. Sarah couldn't do it. She physically couldn't lower herself down without falling. That's when it hit her. She wasn't dealing with an injury. She was dealing with amnesia. Her body had forgotten how to do something it was designed to do. She started simple. 5 minutes a day sitting on the floor while working on her laptop. No stretching, no forcing, just sitting. Day 4, she noticed she could cross her legs without her hip screaming. Day 9, the night pain didn't wake her up. Day 14, she squatted down to pick up something her cat knocked over, stood back up and realized she'd done it without thinking. The movement had come back, not because she built strength, not because she increased flexibility, because she gave her body permission to remember. And here's what Sarah told me that changed everything. I didn't realize how much fear I was carrying until it was gone. That sentence is a portal, because the stiffness in your body isn't just physical. It's a map. In somatic psychology, there's a concept called body armor. The idea is that unprocessed emotions don't just disappear. They crystallize in specific areas of the body as chronic tension. Tight jaw, unexpressed words, locked shoulders, burdens you're carrying that aren't yours, frozen hips, resistance to change, fear of letting go, painful knees, rigidity in how you approach life. Dr. Peter Levine, who developed somatic experiencing therapy after studying how wild animals release trauma, discovered something crucial. Animals in the wild experience life-threatening situations constantly, but they don't develop PTSD. Why? Because after a threat passes, they physically shake it off. They complete the stress cycle through movement. Humans don't do that. We hold it. We push it down. We stay professional and keep it together. And that suppressed activation has to go somewhere. It goes into your tissues. Your tight hips aren't just tight muscles. They're holding every moment you've resisted change. Every time you wanted to run but forced yourself to stay. Every transition you feared but pushed through anyway. And your body, in its infinite wisdom, is trying to tell you something. It's saying, there's something here we need to release. But you can't release it by thinking about it. You can't talk it out in therapy. You can't medicate it away. You have to move it. The Hermetic principle of polarity teaches us that opposites are identical in nature, differing only in degree. Stiffness and fluidity aren't separate states. They're two ends of the same spectrum. And here's the alchemical secret. When you breathe into stiffness instead of running from it, when you stay present with the discomfort instead of avoiding it, you initiate a transformation. Tension becomes release. Blockage becomes flow. Pain becomes information. This is why sometimes out of nowhere you cry during a stretch. It's not weakness, it's completion. Your body is finally finishing a stress response it started years ago, and that changes everything. Now let me tell you what the Egyptians knew. In the temples of ancient Egypt, initiates underwent a practice called Sematawi, the unification of the two lands. On the surface, it referred to Upper and Lower Egypt, but esoterically, it meant something else. The unification of spirit and matter, heaven and earth, consciousness and body. And they had a specific way of achieving this, through what they called Ka'ahoraha, the sacred descent. It wasn't a religious practice, it was a technology. Priests would lower themselves to the ground in specific geometric positions that aligned their spine with the proportions of the Eye of Horus. The Eye of Horus isn't just a symbol, it's a mathematical formula. Each part of the eye represents a fraction. 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, 1/16, 1/32, 1/64. Together they equal 63, 64. The missing 1/64, that's what Thoth, the god of wisdom, provides, the divine spark, the animating force. When initiates placed their bodies in these positions, they weren't just stretching, they were creating resonance, tuning their physical form to match a cosmic frequency, and modern science is now proving they were onto something. In 1952, physicist Winfried Otto Schumann discovered something extraordinary. The Earth has a measurable electromagnetic frequency, 7.83 Hz. It's created by lightning strikes hitting the ionosphere about 50 times per second around the planet. This frequency resonates between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere, creating a standing wave. Scientists call it the Schumann resonance. Ancient cultures called it Earth's heartbeat. And here's where it gets wild. Your brain's hippocampus, the part responsible for memory and spatial awareness, operates at the same frequency when you're in deep relaxation. 7.83 Hz. When you physically touch the Earth, when you lower your body to the ground with skin contact, something measurable happens. Your bioelectric field synchronizes with the planet's field. It's not mysticism, it's physics. Dr. James Oshman, expert in energy medicine, has spent decades studying this. He's shown that the human body functions as a semiconductor. When you insulate yourself from the Earth with rubber-soled shoes, synthetic flooring, elevated furniture, you interrupt the natural flow of electrons that neutralize free radicals in your body. You literally age faster. Studies from the University of California found that just 30 minutes of direct ground contact reduces inflammation, improves sleep, and regulates cortisol. But modern life has engineered this out of existence. The average American spends less than 5 minutes per day in direct contact with the Earth, and we wonder why anxiety, insomnia, and chronic pain are epidemics. We've disconnected from the power source. But here's what's important to understand. Reconnecting isn't complicated. It doesn't require special equipment. It doesn't cost anything. It requires one thing: permission. Permission to lower yourself. Permission to touch the ground. Permission to remember. Because what I'm about to teach you isn't new. It's ancient. You're not learning, you're remembering. The movement the Egyptians practiced, the position that indigenous cultures around the world still use daily, the pattern your body performed effortlessly as a child. It's the deep squat. But before you think I already know what a squat is, listen. What I'm about to show you isn't an exercise. It's a ritual. There's a difference between doing a movement and embodying a symbol. When you squat as exercise, you're contracting muscles. When you squat as ritual, you're redrawing sacred geometry in space. And your body knows the difference. So we're going to do this the way initiates did it in the temples, the way that activates not just your muscles but your frequency. First, remove your shoes. Whenever possible, barefoot. You need to feel the earth. Not for aesthetics, for conductivity. Second, breathe before you begin. 3 conscious breaths. First breath, recognize my body as a temple. Second breath, every movement is sacred. Third breath, I am remembering, not learning. Now the position, feet shoulder width apart or slightly wider, toes pointed out about 15 to 30 degrees. This isn't random. This is geometry. When your feet open at this specific angle, you create a triangular base. The triangle is the symbol of stability in every tradition. It's the first geometric shape that doesn't collapse under pressure. Now bring your hands together in front of your chest. Prayer position, but not religious. It's called Anjali Mudra, the gesture of unification. Right hand, masculine polarity, yang, action. Left hand, feminine polarity, yin, receptivity. When you unite them, you activate the Hermetic principle of gender. Creation only happens when opposites meet. Breathe deep and descend, not fast, not slow. At the pace of your own breath, lower yourself as far as your body allows today. Doesn't matter if it's only 10 centimeters. Doesn't matter if your heels lift. Doesn't matter if you need to hold on to something. What matters is intention. As you descend, mentally state, I surrender to gravity. Gravity isn't the enemy. It's the teacher. It pulls you back home, back to earth, back to now. When you reach your lowest point, hold, breathe, feel. Feel where there's tension, feel where there's restriction, feel where it hurts. And here's the secret that changes everything. Don't run from the tension. Breathe into it. Imagine each inhale bringing golden light into the tight area. Each exhale melting the rigidity, returning it to the earth. You're not forcing. You're negotiating. You're saying to your body, I see you, I hear you, I'm here. Stay there for 30 seconds or 10 if that's all you can manage today. Then rise, but don't rise carelessly. Press your feet into the ground as if you wanted to push the earth down. Activate your legs. Feel power rising through your spine. And mentally state, I rise by my own strength. This matters. You're not just standing up. You're declaring sovereignty. Every time you rise without using your hands, without external help, you're telling the universe, I am capable, I have power. And the universe responds. Do this 5 times. 5, not 50, because it's not about quantity, it's about quality of presence. 5 conscious squats are worth more than 500 mechanical ones. Now here's the protocol that will change your life. For the next 7 days, practice this as a ritual, not as a task, as a sacrament. Day 1 and 2, 5 squats in the morning, right after waking, before coffee, before checking your phone. You're telling your body, you are the priority. Day 3 and 4, 5 in the morning, 5 at night. At night, do them in darkness if possible, or by candlelight. You're activating the ritualistic aspect. Day 5 and 6, 5 in morning, 5 in afternoon, 5 at night. 3 times daily, the sacred number in all traditions. Trinity, triad, body, mind, spirit. Day 7, sit on the floor for 15 minutes. Position doesn't matter. Cross-legged, kneeling, squatting, however you can. And just be. No phone, no TV, just you and the ground. And observe what happens, because on the 7th day something opens. It might be an emotion you didn't know you were holding. It might be an old memory. It might just be peace. But something will happen. Because you're not just exercising. You're initiating a dialogue that's been interrupted for decades. And when you reopen a communication channel that's been closed, backed-up messages start flowing. During these 7 days, pay attention to 3 things. First, how you wake up. Before, did you wake up heavy, stiff? Notice if that changes. Second, how you respond to stress. Before, did you explode or freeze? Notice if a third option emerges. Grounding. Third, your dreams. The body speaks in symbols when the mind sleeps. Write them down and here's what you'll notice. By day 3, you'll feel muscles you forgot existed, not injury pain, awakening pain. By day 5, you'll notice you're breathing differently throughout the day, deeper, calmer. By day 7, you'll catch yourself making movements you haven't made in years, squatting to pick something up without thinking, sitting on the floor while watching TV, not because you forced it, but because your body remembered it could. And then you'll understand you weren't learning an exercise, you were reactivating a code that was dormant, waiting to be awakened, and now it's active. But I need to warn you about something. When you reactivate this code, when you start speaking body language again, you begin to notice things other people don't notice. You'll walk into a room and immediately sense who's grounded and who's floating. You'll notice when someone is speaking from their head, but their body is saying something else. You'll feel collective tension in environments that used to seem normal. This isn't paranoia, it's recovered sensitivity. Ancient mystery schools taught, when you reconnect with Earth, you reconnect with truth. And truth isn't always comfortable. You'll notice how many people around you are disconnected, how many are trapped in chairs, in routines, in bodies that have become cages. And you'll feel the urge to help, to show them what you've discovered. Do it, but not with words, with presence. Be the person who sits on the floor when everyone else is in chairs. Be the person who squats down to play with a child. Be the person who moves with fluidity in a rigid society. You'll become a living reminder, a mirror. And some people will wake up just from seeing you. Others will judge you, will say you're showing off, that it's weird. Let them, because they're not judging you. They're feeling envy for a freedom they forgot was possible. And one day when the pain becomes unbearable, they'll come to you and ask, how do you do that? And then you tell them. You tell them it's not about strength. It's about language. You tell them it's not about age, it's about memory. You tell them their body knows too. It's just waiting to be invited back into the conversation. And when you do this, when you pass this knowledge forward, you're fulfilling what Thoth taught as the highest responsibility of an initiate. The one who remembers must help others remember. You're not just healing your body, you're healing a lineage. Because every time you move with consciousness, you're breaking a pattern that might have started generations ago in your family. Maybe your father never squatted. Maybe your grandmother spent her whole life in hard chairs. Maybe the stiffness you feel isn't even entirely yours. Maybe it's inherited. And when you break that pattern, you don't just free yourself. You free everyone who comes after. Your children will grow up watching you move with freedom. They'll learn by example that the body isn't something to fear but to inhabit, and they'll pass that forward. You're not just doing an exercise, you're rewriting the future of your lineage. So here's what I want you to do right now, not tomorrow, now. Stand up, take off your shoes and squat. Not perfectly, not beautifully, just squat. Lower yourself as far as you can. Breathe, feel, and say out loud, my body speaks. 3 simple words, but 3 words that change everything. Because you're not stating that you learned something new. You're recognizing something ancient. And when you recognize it, when you name it, you activate it. Then come to the comments and leave those 3 words. My body speaks. I want to see who's truly committed to reclaiming this lost language. Because if you made it this far, you didn't arrive by accident. You were called, not by the algorithm, not by me, by your own soul, which is tired of speaking in a language you no longer understand. And now you have the translation. Use it, practice it, live it. Because a body that speaks is a body that heals. A body that moves is a body that remembers. And a body that remembers never forgets who it really is. For the next 7 days, as you practice, observe. Observe not just the body, but life itself. Because when you change the body's frequency, you change the frequency of everything. And if you want to go even deeper, I've left a video on screen about how Hermetic breathwork amplifies everything you just learned. Click it and I'll meet you there. But before you go, remember this. You're not a body that has a soul. You're a soul using a body to remember. And every conscious movement is a step back home. My body speaks. Does yours?